Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Bava Batra, pages 138 through 144, Kuf Lamed Chet through Kuf Mem Daled. 138. Tanu Rabbanan, Shchiv Meira, a person who's on their deathbed, Shamar Manayish Dietzel Ploni, who says, I have money that's owed to me that's in that possession of so-and-so, Haedim Kotvim, the witnesses who see this transpire, who see him say this, they write it down in a document. Even though they're not sure that it's true, they have no direct knowledge that this is a fact. They just hear a guy say it. Therefore, Kishugova, when the heir eventually will try to collect this money, Reb Meir says he's going to have to bring legitimate proof that he's owed the money because the document that was attesting to what the Shchiv said functions as no proof at all. Whereas the sages say, no, we don't write this down unless the witnesses know for a fact that the money is owed. Therefore, in that scenario, when collection is later done, there's no need for further proof. The fact that it was written down is proof. 139. Mishamet, person died. And he left behind sons and daughters. When there's a lot of stuff in the estate, there are plenty of assets to go around. The sons will inherit, they'll get their parcels of land and so forth. And the daughters will get supported until they're married off. And however, if there's only a limited amount of stuff in the estate, then the daughters will be supported. And the sons, they'll go begging at the doorsteps. So Admon says, because I'm a boy, I lose out. It's not fair. There's a gender bias here. Amar Rabban Gamliel, Roni has divrei Admon. And Admon says, you know what? Rabbi Gamliel says, I think Admon is right. That this is an unfair ruling. Okay. 140. Kuf Mem. Hiniach banim ubanot. If one left behind sons and daughters, vitumtum, and a person of ambiguous gender, Bisman hanachasim rubim, when there are many assets, then the boys will push this tumtum character in the direction of the nekevot so that he'll only get supported financially up until marriage or whatever, but he's not going to be a real heir. And if there's only a limited amount in the estate, then the daughters will say, we'll push you to the boys, and the boys aren't inheriting anything because there's nothing to inherit, so you'll get nothing. So the tumtum is a loser on both ends because the other children, whether boys or girls, will always push him to the wrong side. Kuf Mem Al 141. Tanya. Mitzvah lazunat habanot. It is a mitzvah to provide sustenance for one's daughters. All the more so, it is a mitzvah to provide sustenance to one's boys. The aski ba Torah, because they study the Torah, which is in our religious tradition the most important of all activities. So says Rabbi Meir. However, Rabbi Yehuda says mitzvah tabanim. There's a commandment to feed the boys. V'kal v'chomer banot, and all the more so you have to feed the daughters lo tazlan, because we don't want them to be degraded. If they were to have to go begging, it would be real degrading to the girls. It's one thing for the boys to go begging from door to door, but for the females to do that, terrible, terrible, terrible. So therefore, there's a real mitzvah, a definite mitzvah to feed the young daughters. Kuf Mem Bet 142. Tanya, we learned in a Braita. Ger Shemet, a convert died, and a convert died without any heirs, which is possible because he might not have gotten married and have children, and so he has biological relatives in this world who are non-Jews, but he doesn't have any Jewish relatives and therefore no heirs. Ubizbizu Yisrael Nachasav, and the Jews came and grabbed at his assets after he died, because whoever grabs at it gets to keep it. But then they heard through the rumor mill, that the guy actually had a son. Or his wife was pregnant. And so now it's possible that he will have an heir. They have to give back what they took because somebody else might be the rightful owner. Let's say they gave back everything. And then they heard another round in the rumor mill, that his son died. Or the wife had a miscarriage, unfortunately. So now, we thought there was an heir, turns out there is no heir, and the property was already returned to the pile, hechzik b'shniakana. If a second person were to then grab at it, they get to keep it. Rishon Lokana. But as for the guys who grabbed it the first time, they don't get to keep it. Their efforts at making a kinyan on the property were undone by the rumor mill, and the second group of people who took it, they get to keep it because now it turns out it's okay to take. Kuf Mem Gimel, 143. Hamuder Hanami Banim, Mutar Bivnei Banim. Let's say someone makes a solemn oath that they're not going to have any benefit from or grant benefit to their sons. There's family, there's broigus in the family, ill will in the family, and parent and child are not getting along. Someone makes a mudur hana statement. Not good, but it happens. So the question is whether or not grandchildren have the status of banim, or are grandchildren bnei banim in a different category. So what the halacha here is saying is that grandchildren are not banim; they are in a different category of bnei banim, and so there can be hana'ah benefit conveyed one to the other when we skip a generation, grandparent to grandchild, even though the son in the middle is no good. Huf Mem Dalad, 144. Tana Rabbanan. Echad min ha'achim sheminuhu gabayo polmutus. Let's say someone was one of several brothers who have access to an estate of their father who died, and one of these brothers was made a government employee, a tax collector, whatever it might be, and there are financial advantages that accrue to a person from functioning in that capacity. Okay, people might not want to do it, but having gotten the job, there are perks to the job. Well, if this person was granted this position because someone in the family, an heir of the previous generation, was going to get this job, and it just turned out to be one of 5, 6, 7, however many brothers, they chose this guy, then he has to share those financial advantages with his other brothers. However, Machmat Atzmo, if he was appointed having nothing to do with the fact that he's from a certain family that happens to have many, many brothers in it, but rather this guy was chosen for his own merits, then he need not share anything. La'atzmo, he gets to keep it all. Everyone have a great week.